everything we can do can be the same. It doesn't change everything. It changes everything of our content, whether you appreciate it or not. That is what this rejection does.
All right, something crazy just happened in the disc golf world. And no, I do not mean that figuratively. Literally, the Disc Golf World channel has been barred from any media credentials for the 2025 season. Let's talk about it.
Oh, hell no!
The Disc Golf World has posted that they do not have media credentials for the 2025 season. As somebody that filmed a lot of events in the 2024 season with them, this was kind of mind-blowing. Why would the Pro Tour do something that is kind of effectively stabbing themselves in the foot because they do not understand the implications about what this actually means for the Pro Tour? The trust and transparency is seriously at stake here. So I want to state right off the bat that I have a huge relationship with Disc Golf World. I feel like they've been kind of my homies throughout this entire journey. I've talked to them through a lot of events, and honestly, I feel like they've been giving me way more than I've ever given them. And I want to state in 2020, I did an interview with Jefferson, and I did terrible, but he was so motivated. You could tell how much he cared about the disc golf scene. And so I knew even back then, if he was going to stick with it, he was going to be a major name in the sport. And I am not surprised at all the success that they have had, all the people that have flocked to their videos, because I know how much he cares. And I've talked to Swiss at probably like 7 events now, and I can tell you also how much he cares. They have gone to literally almost every event last year. And to see them take the fall, but not me, feels heartbreaking. I do not like it one bit. They're able to give so much funny context in a way that I can't. I want to, but I know I can't. And so to see them do so well, package it up super nicely in a nice 10-minute video, I have so much jealousy of that fact, and I don't want anyone to take away how much value they do bring to the disc golf world. They have insights from real players saying real complaints or real news. There's so much value that they have brought to the scene in a way that no one else is even close to getting. And I know they mentioned like having 3 strikes with the Pro Tour, but to me, those 3 infractions are so minute that they really are not relevant. And according to their video, they've gone to 23 events in total. And so at least for me and my perspective, seeing them not get media credentials was absolutely heartbreaking. It really shattered the illusion that I had because I felt like there was a lot of trust with us media credential people and the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And a couple days ago, Jeff Spring had this to say on the Tour Life podcast.
From what I was briefed on, they weren't applying to be on the road full-time this year, just maybe a handful of events. Okay. Kind of trying to make sure that credentialed media on site was really getting content that they really needed to use. It was more of a application around the affiliate program. And if they want to reach out, they can always, reach out to discuss. And,
are you saying there's too much media right now to where you have to limit who can show up and who can't?
I'm saying that most of the media applications are on an event by event basis. And in the affiliate program, when they applied, they were basically applying for fewer events. And that was denied. I was briefed on, kind of contributed to the decision by the credentialing team.
I'm a snake. I'm a slithery little sneaky snake.
And to that, I feel like I'm just not buying it. I feel like there's so many people on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, literally the Pro Tour, not viewers, not anybody else. The Disc Golf Pro Tour has a strong relationship with Swiss and Jefferson, going on to state that it was due to policy issues, not going to all the events, and not needing the footage. And also stating this is not a content decision at all. So to see them kind of be stabbed in the back, at least from the way that I see it, and how currently they have not been reinstated to have full media credentials, that might change, but as of right now, they do not. It feels like who else but Jeff Spring made this call. So to see him not being fully briefed on why it was made was also kind of weird. And I know he might have gripes about Brody, but he really hyped up the disc golf world and went on to state how having real people asking real questions at the press conference makes it so much more lively. You can ask real questions and it's not the same thing repeated week after week. And I can say firsthand, I've been to these press conferences that they're talking about. And yes, I think Swiss has very good questions, but I mean, Jefferson in particular has such a keen eye on what these players want to be asked, on what people want to know about them. It is great. And not only that, but the Pro Tour cannot state certain questions because they want to seem professional. They don't want to burn any bridges. They don't want to be rude. So the only person that can do that is me in the disc golf world. Nobody else can kind of ask questions in a more jovial, more honest way. And so we're losing that by them not being able to go on tour, as well as so many other parts. And I'm going to touch on this later, but you might be thinking, oh yeah, I mean, they have like a lot of clickbaity titles and thumbnails. So they're probably making like decent money and they have a lot of Patreon members. I want to reiterate, they're not making a lot of money. They're breaking even at best a lot of these events. So to see them not being able to be rewarded for all that hard work, it feels mind-blowing. They're literally everywhere you go on tour. And then not only that, but they have so many interviews with players. They've talked to them. They've asked them like, hey, what's going on at this event? And they'll give all these players a voice in a way that no one else can do, because you have to be there, talk to the players to fully understand what is going on. If you're just watching coverage, you do not have any context as to what is seriously going on. And another part that bothered me about Jeff stating that he's not going to all these events, well, they were going to go to 9 events. And along with that, they had business endeavors at each event. So to state that they're not full-time on the Pro Tour feels super weird. Wild Runs in the 2025 season has been approved to go to, I think, 6 events this year.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
I would like to know why am I being allowed to go, but they're not, even though they have such a higher impact on the disc golf scene. Like, I know where I stand. I'm not the biggest role in the disc golf scene by any means, but the fact that they're being penalized for putting their lives out there, going to these events, basically zero profit motive, they're honestly doing such good work in a way that I cannot understate. And like, I know I want to do what they do, but I'm not that good yet. So I watch their videos and I'm just like, wow, they have summated so much good information in such a small period of time, which is my goal. And so before we talk about the recap, I just want to say this is kind of sounding very, very similar to another major issue in global politics, and that is the Associated Press not being able to film at any events in the Oval Office. This has been a huge issue, and it was all stemming from them not using the term Gulf of America. Now, I don't want to go into super politics mode. You may be thinking, I'm a filthy liberal, green hair, whatever. No, not important. I just want to say this is a terrible, terrible precedent because it does kind of set the standard that you want to police what is being said. Your information that you are sharing is not something that we want to ever promote on tour. I want to reiterate that might not be at all their perspective, but that is what they are doing effectively. If you do not give these people their voice, everyone is going to be upset with you. And you may have the response, well, they can still go to the events, they just don't have media credentials, or they can still use all the footage, like that's still a lot. But check out anything on YouTube. There are so many clips that do nothing for free use. It is just straight up stealing a Jomez clip and posting it. Nothing has been altered or changed. So to me, this fair use argument is just a wash. And then as far as being able to go to these events, it is not cheap. They have mentioned it in their response, but there are so many expenses with going on tour. I cannot understate how much money I spent on each event, and I was getting so little from it. It was all such a high cost just to go to these events. So to say, oh, you could just buy it yourself, it kind of misses the mark as to what the real issue is here.
It says, since a vast majority of your content has been and will continue to be clipped from other places, and due to an increased demand for credentials this season across the board, we won't be issuing you media badges.
The disc golf world has clipped too much, and due to an increased demand of credentials. And yes, I want to reiterate, that is actually so valid. There are so many camera people that do not need to be there. But the reason that I say it's valid is because it's Pro Tour people that I believe do not need to be there. There are so many people that are not even recording in front of the spectator lines. This is where everybody wants to go as media, like me, Jefferson, and Swiss, want to be in this very particular spot, and we're not even able to film there. This is the #1 reason to go to these events. You want to film the best players at the best possible time in the tournament. But we don't go there. We don't try to break the rules. We try to give them ample room to record. But to say that them, and in kind of other words me, should not be there because we're filming like 3rd, 4th, 5th card of lesser known players, or Simon and Paul throwing on like 4th or 5th card, all this feels out of place. It feels like it is just coming from a very different perspective than what is actually going on in the Pro Tour, which makes me pissed. It honestly just makes me mad because I've heard rumors about this, like I want to say last year, how they might just disband it altogether. But to give that reason that they're clipping too much and that there's too many media credentials, it's like, yeah, we are the media. We need to be there to be the media. If there is no media, then there is no Pro Tour. I want to reiterate that. If there is no media, then there is no Pro Tour. Like, obviously, Jomez is there as part of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, but to remove media because there's too many people that have credentials, it's like so off the mark. And as somebody that has been there on the front lines, I have seen so many people with the green vests that I do not have access to because that is part of the Pro Tour. So many people with the green vests aren't doing anything with the footage they record. And you know how I know that? Because they're not recording. They are literally given the most important access and they're not choosing to record. They are honestly seeming like they don't even care to be there. It feels like they just have their camera on just to be there. I couldn't tell you why they're there, but they have the green vest, and I guess that gives them the right to be right next to all these players. They're not recording live. They're not recording Jomez. I know that because I see the Jomez team. So there's a lot of these people that are getting in the way of coverage. It feels to me like they're not optimizing correctly and they're penalizing the person that has actually done the most for the sport.
that exposure to the fans and what it meant to the family members, especially where it was constantly reminded, where pros came up to us, family members came up to us and said, hey, we really love that you showcase everybody and you're there along the tour with them. That's what's lost.
This exactly. There has been a lot of people that come up to me, and I have a much smaller channel, but they've come up to me and say, hey, I love your content. I really appreciate you shouting out like my son. It put a name out there that wasn't like top 20, and it was able to expand the entire view of what disc golf looks like. Because week after week, we kind of assume it's just like the same people, but no, there are so many pros on tour that just never get heard. And if you're only watching coverage, you'll probably still never hear them. So to bring all these names up and show the footage, show what kind of amazing disc golfers they are, it does have tremendous value. There are so much valuable insights that you will never get to see if you're not actually at the event, and not only that, but not actually seeing these players up close. Talking to these players is a night and day difference than just watching coverage. So there are so many things lost by just watching a low bit stream. And that's not to say that Disc Golf Network hasn't come a long way. They've done so many great things that have progressed the entire sport as a whole.
And I do also want to say, as far as part of the rules of the content creator program, we adhered to every one.
Card number 18, filmed them, sat on hold 2 for the next card, and waited the entire 6 hours we recorded and made sure that we were using as much players as possible until the actual recap of the event when we had to use the B-roll that was provided, because we are not allowed to record chase or lead card ever. So that's why we had to use their footage for that stuff. But everything else, we wouldn't.
And I want to iterate on that a little bit. And not only were they adhering to every rule, but a lot of times these rules were up in the air. There was not a lot of obvious reasons as to why decisions were made. It really felt like some of the rules were kind of done haphazardly, and they felt like they would kind of change over time. But not only that, if you did adhere to all these rules, you really don't get benefited in any way. You're actually penalized a lot more than other people that aren't adhering to all these rules, like having to wait 24 hours after the final round of Pro Tour coverage.
These are the conversations that the pros are having on the course, and we're sharing that. We're exposing that. And that's what makes our content different. My favorite part about a lot of people's complaints as far as fans is the lack of honesty or openness that pros have. And with us being banned, that's what my biggest fear is. It's going to close off even more, because this is, it is kind of making a sense that if and what you aren't saying isn't proper or isn't helping the DGBT, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be, it means that it could come back on you. And that's what's scary about this all. Like, if we want, fans want this honesty, fans want this.
They have done everything that I want to do as a creator, but they have done it so much more effectively. They have added humor in a way that I just can't comprehend. I wish I could, but all my videos feel stale compared to theirs. They have provided so much value to the entire disc golf scene, but to me, like this whole video, they are losing so much by cutting Disc Golf World. The bulk of everything else is stuff that they filmed, which is incredibly hard to get to. These courses are not easy to walk, they're not easy to film, and not only that, but you have to be quick to record all these shots with all these different storylines, all these players. There's a lot going on at each different event that's probably something that you've never thought about. And they're doing all of this out of their van. I want to reiterate, so many people on tour, including them, they're not doing this to make money. They're just doing this because they love the sport and want to follow it and give the world disc golf news in under 10 minutes. I have almost an identical goal. And you know what I've done? Way less than them. And they're being penalized for how hard they've been working this entire journey. Foundation and the Upshot have great recaps, probably the best in the scene, but it's a 45 to hour-long podcast. It is not at all similar to watching a 10-minute video that is heavily edited to show every single point in such a small period of time. And you may be saying, yeah, they just repeat what Jomez and DGN are talking about. Honestly, no. There are so few things being told in the Jomez and DGN videos that it's just a total night and day difference than what is actually being told in the Disc Golf World videos, as well as my video. There's a lot of viewpoints that they never discuss and never will discuss because it is controversial. So making sure that all these voices are heard is so important, even if you don't agree with them. It is important to know why Haley King is doing the crazy shit that she's doing. And I want to make another point. DGN just makes cut up highlights. They're not showcasing anything important other than the players throwing the shots that led them to win the event. There's no commentary. There's nothing of crucial impact. It is all just like, oh, wow, Simon threw a crazy shot. That is all you get on the uploads from DGN. And while Jomez does have great commentary, they still, again, do not cover any of the issues of the events. Because why would they? That's not their goal. They make very different content. And so there it is. I believe the Disc Golf World has done nothing wrong, and I think they're being penalized harshly. So as it sits now, there might be a world where they rediscuss with Jeff Spring and the Pro Tour to go to some of the events, go to none of the events, go to all the events. I don't know. But just in conclusion, as somebody that is very similar to them, doing very similar stuff, making similar videos, The reasons given as to why they're being penalized and not me feel dumb. It feels short-sighted. It feels like somebody made a decision haphazardly because it wouldn't hurt them. And I'm saying this knowing maybe I get penalized and maybe I can't film at the events this year. But I will say cutting the media off is not a great look. But that's just my thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys think. Disc Golf World, if you're watching, let me know what you think. Maybe I said something that was off the mark. I'd love to know. And if you do get reinstated, I'd sure also love to know that. So with that, I gotta go take care of my baby because fatherhood never ends. So with that, Wild Runs signing out. Peace. Damn, boy, why your hair green?